Hey everyone, today I'm going to go over the TokBox debugging tool. We'll start off by opening a browser and navigating to the tool. And once you get in, you'll see two options. One is to create a new session, and the other is to join an existing session. Creating a new session is a great way to have a session outside of production that allows you to reproduce any issues that you're seeing in the field. So let's say your customers reported that your application is having a problem. If you can reproduce that problem in the debugger tool, then it's probably a TokBox specific issue. If you can't, then it might be something with your application. So let's try doing that. You'll be asked for an API key and secret. Enter those in and select any options that are specific to your application, and then click Create. Once you do that, you'll immediately see a few things. On the left side, you have all your information about the session. You'll see your session ID, your token ID, and the partner API key, or the partner ID. Connections and streams will have a question mark next to them. That's because we haven't connected to the session and we don't have any information for it. As soon as you hit connect though, you'll see that the connections went to 1, and that's the actual connection that we just made. Remember, we just made the session ID, so no one else has this session. It makes sense that we're the only ones in. Streams are 0 because we haven't started publishing yet. And you'll see a couple of buttons here that give you some options on manipulating our API. Let's think of a hypothetical use case that we want to debug. Let's say our users are reporting that setting frame rate is not working in the application. So we'll try to publish, but before we do that, this options button lets us see some publisher options. You can see that there's a frame rate option that you can check, and let's set it to 1 so it's very clear and dramatic if it is or isn't working. Hit close, and then click publish. Now usually you'll see an allow or deny dialog show up at the top, but the default behavior in Chrome is to remember your previous selection if it's over HTTPS, and that's why we didn't see it show up. You probably will if it's your first time using the tool. Now let's also notice that it's pretty obvious that our frame rate is not 30 frames per second. I think it's safe to say that it's 1. So let's make sure that we're covering all the use cases. Maybe what's happening is that the subscriber is not seeing the same thing. I think that's somewhat unlikely since the publisher is only sending 1 frame per second, but let's do it for demonstration purposes. Instead of copying the session ID and the token and then adding that into a new tab, we can just copy the URL and paste it into another tab. And we'll be at the same exact session. We still need to connect, so click the connect button. Now on the left side you'll see your connections have went up to 2, but since we haven't started publishing here, our streams are still 1. Now what we came here for was to see if the subscriber was also receiving 1 frame per second, and it looks like it is. Okay, so at this point we might think, well, looks like everything's working, there must be something wrong with our application. But you should make sure you ask your users what exactly is going on. Let's try doing this in Firefox. So we'll close the Publisher tab and open Firefox, go to the same URL, connect. Now we see 2 connections, neither of which is publishing. We'll click on Options, set the frame rate to 1, and publish. This time you see the allow or deny dialog because Firefox asks every single time. It looks pretty smooth, so I don't think we're actually setting the frame rate to 1. Let's go back to Chrome and see in our subscriber. Yep, looks pretty smooth. We were expecting just 1 frame per second. So it actually turns out that this is a canned use case that I already know about. The set frame rate API, and it's actually documented in our website, is a suggestion to the browser, and currently Firefox does not set that. So it works in Chrome, but it doesn't work in Firefox. If you're curious, there's a workaround. You can restrict frame rate to true. That's different than setting the frame rate. And if you click that, your subscriber will see a restricted frame rate, but your publisher will still be smooth. So that kind of demonstrates how you can debug an issue that you're seeing in production. From there you can see if the issue is within your application or with the TokBox API. And you can post any issues that you come across on forums.tokbox.com.